Welcome to the Mindset Game podcast. I am delighted to have Alina Frank here with us today. For close to 2 decades, Alina has trained, mentored, and certified hundreds of EFT practitioners through the EFT Tapping Training Institute, which she founded with her husband, Dr. Craig Weiner. For those of you who are not yet familiar with EFT tapping, EFT stands for Emotional Freedom Techniques. And since 2019, Alina has specialized in certifying relationship coaches using EFT. And today we'll get to learn even more about how to create and maintain a connected, loving, intimate romantic relationship. Alina is the best-selling author of How to Want Sex Again and has been a contributing author of 8 books on EFT, including the Clinical EFT Handbook. Along with her husband, she produced the Science of Tapping film project, which is excellent because it provides physiology-based, research-based explanations of how EFT and tapping works. And on a personal note, I was trained by Alina and Craig on EFT tapping. And Alina, it is absolutely an honor to have you here with us today. Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you having me here. It's a wonderful topic, and I'm very excited about it, very passionate about it, and your whole podcast theme. I mean, it's all about mindset. It really is.
It is. Thank you. And how about we kick it off by you sharing a little bit about how you got into this area of work, this area of expertise?
Yeah. So I was an EFT practitioner for years, and I was sort of a generalist, just helping anyone with anything that they had issues with. And I started getting people in my practice, clients and potential clients, that were asking me to work on relationship challenges, and specifically women especially, that were married and they were in a sexless marriage and they wanted help with that. And so when we avoid doing things and doing our own work and learning more about ourselves, what ends up happening is that it's presented to us in other ways, and maybe in not so pleasant ways. And so I really believe that those are gifts from the universe. Although when it happens in the moment and it looks like chaos, you're not too thrilled. But most of us have had the chances where the universe kind of starts with a whisper, "Hey, hey, that isn't working. You need to change." And then it gets a little louder, like, "Hey, wake up." And then when you don't, then you get the cosmic 2x4. So, so it kind of happened to me in that way because I had worked on all kinds of issues. The way I got into EFT was because I had health challenges. So I really cleared that up, and I was happy, and I was raising my kids, and I lived in a place I loved. And so those areas of my life were fine, but I did not want to look at my romantic relationship. I did not want to look at my very unhappy marriage that had been sexless for 10 years at that point. And so when I got one client after another, I almost, in one week, I think I had 3 asking me for that specific thing. And I just laughed after I hung up, I laughed to myself and I just said, okay, I get it. I get it. It's an area I need to work on. So through that process, the marriage didn't survive because I was then willing to look at the whole picture and heal all of that. And I was able to ask for a divorce when, it's rare for anyone in my family to have gotten divorced. So Catholic upbringing, conditioning, and all of those things. And I was able to ask for a divorce. And within 3 months of asking for a divorce, I met my future husband, and I was ready by that time. I had done a tremendous amount of healing, and I attracted, the love of my life. And 12 years later, we have a business together, and life is good. But I was not ready for that. I even had Craig Weiner is also my training partner. Like you said, we teach EFT together. My first training partner was a woman named Dr. Kia Emmergluck, and she is a psychologist in Chicago, and she would come to Seattle and I would go to Chicago to teach. And when I told her, I have a feeling I'm going to ask for a divorce, I'm working on my relationship. And she said, thank God, because one time I asked you about your relationship and you actually said to me, don't ask me about my marriage. I'm not going to share anything with you about my marriage. I can't even consider the idea of separating until my kids are in college. And I said, really? I don't remember. That's how unconscious I was. I don't remember that conversation, but it was certainly the way I was feeling. It's like, nope, don't want to touch that. And then you know how it is when you finally heal from your greatest fear, challenge, it becomes the greatest gift. And so I absolutely had to make that my area where I specialize in, and yeah, love it. Still very passionate about it.
Oh, thank you for sharing that. It's and for your, vulnerability and all of that, the courage, to do that work with yourself. And then, of course, when that felt more aligned, the courage to express that, to ask for what you needed, to honor your kind of values, and to be able to create an even better future for yourself and now for millions of people around the world who follow your work. So, for those individuals listening now that might be in that place of a marriage that is not uh, totally fulfilling, that is not happy, maybe there is not enough sex, or maybe it's not enjoyable, or what might be a good starting place for those individuals?
Well, first, admit that there's a problem. Don't be me. Admit that there is a problem and go through the process of forgiving yourself for being ignorant, forgiving yourself for not seeing it, forgiving yourself for making peace with the idea that you decided to marry this person in the first place, partner up with this person in the first place, have children with this person in the first place. So all of that sort of guilt and shame that this is even a problem, I think it really helps to just clear that, so that you can have more courage to be able to see after that cloud lifts, like, okay, what do I want to look at? What are the problems here? And what is my part in it? Because very often it is, really the first level is like, they did that to me. And when you clear that, then it's all about, well, I did this, or I made those unconscious choices based on my history. I wasn't aware, and I'm going to make peace with that and forgive myself for doing those things. So first thing is just acknowledging, and then seeing, does my partner want to work on this together? Do we need to work on it separately and together? Is that not even an option? And I'll start with me and see what happens. And so it's not the goal, but many times when we really take responsibility for what we're doing and our part of it and everything else, then it's amazing how often people around us, they seemingly change. And so, quick story about that. We live on an island right north of Seattle, and we have to rely on a ferry. And so the ferry leaves on time. There is a ferry schedule. And so my ex-husband had this problem of being chronically late for everything. And I'd have the kids in the car seats, and I'd have myself in the passenger seat fuming because he wasn't ready and we'd be late. And I'd be like, oh, so I decided, okay, for this part, I can bite off that chunk and I can work on that piece myself to see what happens. And I did. And instead of, like, as soon as he gets in the car, like yelling, we're going to be late, I would very calmly with no charge and no intensity whatsoever, because I was really calm, I would say, okay, so when we get to your friend's wedding and we're 2 hours late because of the ferry schedule, I'd really like for you to tell them, that it was your fault that we were late because of whatever. And so that diffused the situation. But interestingly enough, Jared, he stopped being late. At least for me, in situations with myself and like scheduling things, he was always on time after that. And so I still divorced him. But that piece, it was great to see that I changed myself, and that didn't show up anymore. That energy that I was butting up against just dissipated.
It is so fascinating. And I know that certainly we could take the rest of our conversation in that direction, right? To the whole like metaphysical, right,
Yeah.
stuff. And that is fascinating. And it's also fascinating that when we acknowledge that we had some part in whatever is going on in our lives and in our relationships, including our intimate relationships, then that's where the healing truly begins, because we can step into that forgiveness. We can step into questioning some of our beliefs and maybe releasing some maybe stuck energy about that, some stored up emotions. And so, you brought up a good point. Like, we could do this ourselves, we could do this with somebody. So, how important is it? I mean, I know we kind of said change can happen even if we just work on ourselves. But if somebody's
Mhm.
like, okay, I want to step into some healing or therapeutic kind of relationship work, is it better alone? Is it better together? What do you think?
Yeah, I think that there are, like I mentioned, tapping or we're using EFT to release my anger about that particular situation. Waiting in the car, we're always late, and doing that piece was small enough. And in the grand scheme of things, was it causing trauma? No. Was it really that upsetting? Not really. It was just annoying. And so could I get rid of that by myself and very clearly see all of the different aspects of it? Yeah, sure. Now, other things that are multi-layered, where I feel like I'm really not getting anywhere, I'm not seeing evidence that things are changing, then I want to seek the help of a practitioner. Because so not only is a skillful practitioner trained in asking you questions that will then have you realize, oh yeah, that's really what this is about. um, but I believe that there's a part of our psyche that sometimes doesn't want to reveal things to ourselves. The whole mindset thing. So you have an unconscious event or belief system that says, I'm going to even protect you from really looking at this because there's trauma involved. It's too painful. We don't want you to experience that again. And so it isn't available to us in the way that we would want to, in order to bring it to the light of day and to heal it. And so the safety and the connection and the rapport and the trust that you build with a witness, with a guide, with someone to hold your hand and say, I'm creating this container of safety with you. Your psyche's like, oh yeah, I like that. Okay, bingo. Oh, by the way, this is really what it's connected to. When you were 5 years old, this thing happened and you haven't remembered it since you were 5. I've been keeping it away from you so to protect you. But now that you're in a safe place with somebody that can help you through this, I'm going to reveal that to you. So those are those wonderful, miraculous moments that happen as a practitioner, as you know, where people are like, whoa, I don't know why I'm thinking of this. And you're like, yay, because that's part of the puzzle that they've stored back there. And now they feel safe enough, some part of them, their psyche, ready to reveal it.
Thank you for explaining that. And I would love to learn a little bit more about, like, what are some of the big issues, problems that people come to you in this particular arena, in the relationship healing kind of arena,
Mhm.
and what do you do with them? Like, what can people expect if they engage in this type of work? And
Mm-hmm.
what are some of the results that you see?
Mm-hmm. So I think of this work as having 3 tracks, but it all sort of blends together. So one track is the sex and intimacy piece. And the sex and intimacy piece really involves a gentler approach because of the sensitivity of that, of the traumas, the things that happen as a result of that. And many times it is sexual abuse or sexual injury. And people seem to think that, oh, like, I wasn't molested. It doesn't even matter. I mean, yes, there are degrees, but when you were 5 years old, your uncle at a party grabbed you and put you on his lap, and you felt energetically, this is creepy, this is weird, is enough to create sexual injury. And so we kind of get scared of, like, I wonder what dark monsters are hovering in that, that closet where I don't feel comfortable having sex, or I'm there are all kinds of things that scare me about it, and it's an area I don't want to venture into. But it could be that easy. It could be that simple. I had a client who we were working on some sex and intimacy things, and she said, oh, one of the things that I'm dealing with also is I am really terrified of bald men. I'm like, okay. And so at that point, I wasn't saying, oh, that has to be from some childhood sexual abuse or something. But when we were doing Matrix, re-imprinting, where we go back to following the energy, where does this originate from? At that point in the work that we were doing, she went right back to a memory where she was playing doctor with a friend in a basement. And the basement was also like the playroom for the kids. And on a shelf in the playroom was a clown, a little clown doll with a bald head. Now, when she was starting to tell me that story, I had, I was on all alert, all ears, all eyes, watching and listening, because I'm thinking, if this goes to what we call a big T trauma, if it's a sexual injury that's happening, then we really have to work at it very differently, and safety protocols and all of that. But okay, so far, nothing. They're just playing doctor. Well, the injury and the intense part of the story is that the girl's mom walked in, and they got punished, and she was never able to see her best friend again. That was the trauma.
Wow.
And so when we cleared that, not only did things get better with the sex and intimacy part, but there's someone here who's I'll say a small business proprietor here where I live, who's bald. Wonderful guy. And but she was terrified to go into that store because he's bald. And so part of the testing was go in there and have a conversation. And she did. And she was like, oh, it's lovely. And then years later, she sent me a picture. She was at a bar, and two guys that were bald were there. And she just like puts one on each arm. She goes, look, it's still okay.
That's brilliant. Awesome.
So those connections. So that's one track, is the sex and intimacy track. And it certainly can have you living a very, if you don't heal from those events and those issues from sexual injury, then the belief many times is, I don't feel safe in my body. And so one of the things that I've seen is not only a breakdown in a physical relationship with your partner, but if you're single and you're attracting, potential life partners, you're going to have this unconscious attraction to people that are safe. So that there's a part of you that's like, as long as I'm not, sexually attracted to this person, I'm going to be okay. And that can have all kinds of repercussions and problems. And I've seen people have affairs because my partner's really safe. I feel nothing for them. And then it just flips into, well, I do need to feel that in some way. And then they go off, or, myriad ways. It can just happen that there's a feeling like it's not safe. I got to protect my physical body. Another way that it shows up is weight issues. Very commonly, it's like, if I have this barrier, this physical barrier, no one will be attracted to me and I will remain safe. And again, a lot of this is just unconscious. But so that's the sex and intimacy way that this comes up. But, I could spend the whole hour on this one. Pornography is a really big problem in our society these days. And so I've had young men with something called porn-induced erectile dysfunction, where the habitual process of watching pornography sets up the neural pathways of, this is the only way that I can have sex, and this is the only way that I can have an erection and have ejaculation. And when they're faced with a real person, a real live body, their system shuts down. So that's a real issue. At one point in my practice, I attracted a lot of very religious men that were dealing with pornography. And so I had people in the Orthodox Jewish community, I had Mormons, and I had Jehovah's Witness coming to me. And so that process of healing that part of that addiction connected with the shame and the inadequacy that their partners, their wives, were feeling, and put over that religious shame. And most of those communities have, as part of their healing process, you have to bring this to the community and say it in front of a group of elders there who are telling, basically telling you that that's not okay, and here's the judgment and all of that. So it is I felt tremendously honored to be able to work with those men in those situations. And it was just weird. I got this reputation of, go see Alina Frank for this in the Jewish and Mormon and Jehovah's Witness communities. So that's the sex and intimacy track. Then there's the other big set of problems comes from, I'm dating and I'm not finding the one. And so what I love about that work is that you can look and write down your pattern. Okay. Sam and Elliot and Frank, and how are these guys similar? What is the pattern here? Why? Okay. I realize they're all safe men and I've never been attracted to them. Oh, all right. There might be some sexual injury in my past that's prevented me from attracting someone that I'm attracted to. Or the issue might be that I'm always pursuing these guys that really treat me like dirt, and they do it and they break up with me, and I don't have any clarity about what it is that if they're really into me or not. And so in that case, we might look at, okay, some self-worth and self-esteem issues might be going on, a belief system that I'm not good enough or I'm not deserving, all of which goes back to childhood. And then another way that it can show up in when you're dating is the pattern of that you just don't have all of the things on your list that you said were like non-negotiable behaviors about someone. And again, that goes back to same sorts of issues. I'm not good enough. I don't deserve to have somebody that has all of the things that I want, or I'm afraid that I'll be alone, so I'm going to just settle. He's not 100% okay, and it'll be fine. I guarantee you that those things that you said, they're okay, even though I had said those are my values or those are my non-negotiables, I'm going to make an exception, and I'm going to compromise it. That's that thing, whatever that was, is the reason why you're going to end up breaking up down the road. So yeah, I love that work, and there's a program that I've led to help women and men find their ideal partner. And my a friend of mine who has passed is the originator of the system that then we added EFT to, and she kept statistics, and she said that she had at some point 98% successful happy marriage rate for her single clients that were using the work, because it teaches you not to settle, and work on yourself and what's preventing you from really attracting the person that you deserve to have that will make you wildly happy. And when I met Craig, I was starting to do that work, and if someone had looked at us and said, all right, so you just asked for a divorce and you just asked for a divorce. Don't you think you need time to process and the time to heal all of that? And I knew that system. And when I plugged in Craig's characteristics and all those other things, it just was very clear that, no, we're meant to be together. There's no need to really wait. So that's another reason why I love that program, because it comes from my own experience. And then the last one is kind of the most challenging, because one is just the healing the sexual piece. The second one is about, okay, I need to heal the things that have prevented me from having the right person, and here are the steps I do. The third one is more complicated because you have another person that's involved. And so, like, what are all the things that can happen? Number one is betrayal, right? That's the number one reason why people consider divorce, or they end up getting divorced. Two is money issues. And three is the sex and intimacy piece is lacking. And I see them all interconnected. And so the problems that you have related to, let's say, money, might have to do at its core about you not being able to set clear boundaries. And that shows up in everywhere. That shows up in your bedroom, that shows up in your relationships with your family. And this is just the current manifestation of it. And then there's the pattern of disagreements and hurts, and getting in it's either we're arguing or we're shutting each other out and we're not talking to each other. And that people can be stuck in that pattern for years and years and years and years, and not have the courage to either work on it or to see if it can change, if you work on it yourself, or ask your partner, or give some kind of, like, we have to work on this or else. So it gets trickier. But like I said at the beginning, it's important then for you to do what's your part of it, and see at the end of that whether it makes sense to come and go and all of those things. One thing I used to tell clients was that when you partner, or your husband, your wife, they asked for a separation or for a divorce, or you find out that they're cheating, they've had all the time in the world to go through all the logistical and the logical machinations of, what does it mean if I betray, if I get caught? What if it means if I leave? What's my financial picture going to be if I leave, if I get a divorce? So they've had all of that time to maybe not heal it, but to think things through. And so it's natural that when you get hit by that that you're like, where did that come from? I feel so devastated. You haven't had that time to really process that. And when you can process that, there's a term called reappraisal success. And that means that you're able to look at a situation very clearly without all the emotions behind it and actually say, it wasn't that great. It really wasn't. There were some things that were definitely wrong that I don't want to repeat in my next relationship. So then, then it's just, I mean, two people, they're individuals, and what might they come in with? They might come in with I've had couples that wanted to open their relationship, that they wanted to explore polyamory. Okay, what are the issues in your relationship that on an unconscious level you might be running away from? Let's deal with those, and then you can talk about opening up the relationship with clear boundaries, rules, agreements, what we're going to do, how long we're going to do it, all those things that need to be talked out that can be triggering for people. But first, what's wrong with the marriage? And so we're going to work on that until that's resolved, and then you can decide to open it up or not. So those are interesting, cases where, people that were on the brink of divorce because one said, I want to, all that, they resolved their issues. Other times it was a feeling of, betrayal, or other times it might be just a communication style that wasn't really working for one or both. And I think that's when the tools that you have, the tools that I teach, I really think that they help us to get to beyond the communication skills, which is really a lot of what traditional couples therapy is about. So you said that to me, and let me get my book from the workshop retreat. Like, let me find what I'm supposed to say to you in response. Or what was it, in nonviolent communication? I have to answer this way. So, and that automatic reaction that you have is what we want to try to get rid of. And we do when we work on those, when we use those tools to get rid of all of the history of it. And so now I'm just presented with you saying this, and boy, I'm not triggered, and I can actually access those things that I learned to say. But before, it's like I went to automatic, you're actually my mother, you're yelling at me, and this is how I'm responding, without you even knowing that that's what's going on. But it's hard to use the sort of left brain cognitive skills that you learn in communications class, and how to appreciate your partner. All of that goes out the window when you're triggered. You lose the blood flow to your frontal cortex, that part of your brain that can actually make a decision. Oh yeah, he's just having a rough day. It's not about me at all. Like that is a higher level cognitive awareness that we just don't have access to when we're hijacked like that emotionally. So we get rid of those triggers so they're not there.
Well, thank you for explaining all of that. And I'm pretty certain that a lot of the people listening, number one, are feeling more self-forgiveness, self-compassion for themselves if they have overreacted or, were hijacked, as you said, because they didn't really have a choice in that moment, consciously. So we're always doing the best that we can with the resources that we have available to us in that moment, the state that we are in. And also a lot of hope, because some of the situations that you described that people come to you with are really very kind of depleting, painful places to be, whether it's feeling really lonely or feeling terrified or whatever that might be. And so to know that someone can come from that dark place, or a place of not finding the right person for many years and starting to question their own worth, and and to have that success, whether that success is inner ease or, success in the really awesome way of finding the right person
Mm-hmm.
or expressing what we need so that we're free to find someone that's an even better fit. That is just a beautiful gift that you're giving to people here because it is possible. And so, what do you think that is really important for people to know, and specifically those individuals that have not yet had success or what they might call luck, finding the right person? What's absolutely important for them to embrace or open themselves up to?
Yeah, I think that the the most insightful process will be when you actually look at the pattern of what's happened in even if you just went on one date with someone, what were their flaws. So that's an important process. But I also think that and it, time and again I see it in the graduates that we have that have gone on to getting married. You need to set it, you need to set that template, you need to plant that seed, and then you need to go out and enjoy your life and love yourself and just going about your regular business, having fun, being the light that people are attracted to, and forgetting about, oh, I've got to do this or do that, because the universe has it planned in a much more magical way than you could imagine ever imagine. And so I hear sometimes women will say things like, oh, I can't, the place I live is just too small, I'm not going to find somebody that I'm compatible with. And I said, I live in a town of 786 people, and I thought I knew everyone in this town who was available. I thought I knew all the Jews in this town because there's just like a little few handfuls of us. I thought I knew everyone that was connected to the healing arts community here. And I didn't meet Craig until I had already asked for my divorce and he was separated from his marriage. And we realized that if we had met earlier, maybe Craig would have ended up becoming friends with my ex, because they had a lot of, the Northeastern Jewish kind of thing going. They would have connected, maybe tennis, and then they would have been buddies. And then Craig might have never stepped over that line, if that was the case, if he were my ex-husband's friend. So it works so beautifully when you continue to do your inner work and you have fun and you enjoy your life and follow your intuition when it says, I'm going to take up painting. I don't know why, or I'm drawn to doing some writing in a group that's happening. I'm drawn to, doing yoga on Sunday mornings at the park, and I'm going to go follow that intuition without the sort of attachment that you have, like, oh, I might meet someone. No, it happens in a wacky way. All the chess pieces are being moved, but you've got to feel deserving, and you can't settle, and you've got to have a clear idea of what your pattern is to clear that up a bit so that you set the circumstances for the perfect opportunity to come your way.
Beautiful, thank you. And some of us might have heard of something called the law of attraction. Kind of people may have some awareness of what you're referring to, right? When you radiate
Mm-hmm.
a certain energy out into the field, into the matrix, then you tend
Right.
to receive information, impulses of thought, guidance, that will inspire you to take some action that will then lead to exactly how you want to feel. And it does require us to let go of the form a little bit of that, and really
Mm-hmm.
just be open. And so I'm curious about some of like the key elements of the program that you offer, because some people might be like, okay, I have some sense of my pattern, as you said, some of the flaws or some of the things that I tend to be drawn to, let's say somebody who's safe, as you said, for example.
Mm-hmm.
But then what? What do I do with that? So what does that process look like, sound like, feel like?
Right. So it is okay. This is my pattern. What might it be connected to? are there things in my past that have made me feel that I'm not deserving? Like a father who always told me I wasn't good enough. I came home with a B plus and he said, why didn't you get an A? So those kinds of events are important to work through, either on your own, because we show you how to do it. But if you're not getting results and you feel like you still need help, then that's the time to hire a practitioner to help you with that. So there's a system where you end up really evaluating and getting very clear on who your ideal partner is based on behaviors and how well they treat you. And then last, and it is like you have to follow that chart. Last but not least is the chemical sort of physical attraction that you have. It's in our society, it's reverse. It is, I see someone I like and I'm going to swipe one way, and I don't like them based on a 2-second scanning of their photograph. I'm going to scan another way. And we are programmed to like evaluate physical features first. And if there isn't anything there, move on. We've all had the experience of finding someone attractive and then getting to know them, and they're not so attractive anymore. The same thing happens when you are really clear about, these are the values I want. This is how I want this person to treat me. And now I'm going to check out the part about attraction. And I joke around with Craig when we're asked about this all the time. It wasn't immediate like, wow, sparks. That wasn't it. It was like, wow, there's something really interesting. I don't know what it is, but your life path sounds very much like mine. And so a conversation, he invited me to speak at his chiropractic office. And there was like, where'd you come from? How long have you lived here? How come I don't know who you are? So it wasn't, don't think that like the sparks have to fly, because sometimes it is a matter of really, the thing about the chemistry is, and I'm certainly not telling you to go for someone that you are not attracted to at all, but you first have to evaluate how well they treat you and their behaviors and their values, and then see, because what will happen is it makes all those things really lead to constant chemistry. Because Craig knows that I like certain things and the way that he treats me, that makes it even, I feel more attracted to him as a result of those things that have a lot more longevity than just if I thought, oh, he's really hot and sexy. I mean, those things change. So, but the real, like the slow fire that lasts for years and decades and a lifetime, yes, like
Okay.
how they treat you, and that you have a real bond and a friendship, and you feel like you are that other's most important person on the planet, and that's just lovely. And I want all people that are seeking that, because there's nothing that says you have to be paired up with someone if that's not what you want to do. But if that is a goal of yours, you deserve it. You really deserve it. And my message is like, don't settle. Work on yourself, have a good life, clear out anything that prevents you from doing those things, and have trust and faith, and you'll get it. You'll get it.
Wow, thank you. And it's, the whole kind of essence of this podcast, this philosophy is that it really is a game once you get to understand how to play the game, so to speak, that that you create your own life, and you do that in large part through the intention, which is what you described around clarifying, what
Yes.
are your values, how you want to be treated, what are those things that are important to you. So
Mm-hmm.
really amplifying that intention, right? Really radiating, projecting that energy, how you want to feel. And at the same time, as you said, to clear any resistance to that, any
Mm-hmm.
inner resistance. So any beliefs that might not be aligned with that intention, any negative emotions that might not be aligned with that intention, and so on. And then it just tends to flow much more easily, and we feel inspired to take the action. And once we get how to play that game, then it really does become more fun, and we can give ourselves permission to enjoy life, even
Right.
when we don't yet have the partner or the car or the X, whatever that is that we
Yeah.
desire. And so, thank you for simplifying it for us and helping us realize that each of us can, it is available for us to have the relationship, the connection, the intimacy that we deeply desire, that we are worthy of it. And it's just a matter of time when we do the work that you're describing to us today.
Yeah. So another, so in that intention setting, one exercise can be just imagining spending time with that ideal partner. But here's the thing about like leaving the chemistry out of it. Do not put a face, do not put a body. It's it's the energy of having that partner next to you and how that makes you feel. And just like we went to the zoo and we had a picnic and how that makes me feel so good and so loved and so appreciated and so cared for. And so that's what you focus on, not the body and the face and all of that. The energy that you feel when you're with the ideal partner.
Oh my God, Alina, that's just so cool. And when you think about it, it could be so useful for all areas of our life. If somebody wants a
Mm-hmm.
different job, they're unfulfilled in their job, right? Not to be
Yes.
over attached to a particular type of role or industry, right? But
Yep.
rather to be attached to how we want to feel,
Mm-hmm.
right? And really connect with that over and over and over again, and to surrender that that will come at the right time when we are ready, and the job, the person, the thing is ready for us as well. And then
Mm-hmm.
it'll just be magic, a bigger
Mm-hmm.
wave of love and joy. Thank you so much, Alina, for everything that you've shared with us today. And how can people learn more about you, about the EFT Tapping Training Institute,
Mm-hmm.
and really engage in this healing for themselves and others?
Yeah, thanks for asking. So there is a program where I certify. I no longer work with private clients, but I spend most of my time training and mentoring and certifying. So if you are interested in looking at work with a relationship coach, or you're interested in becoming a relationship coach, you can go to EFTrelationshipcoach.com. And then our EFT and matrix training website is EFTtappingtraining.com.
Beautiful. Well, thank you again, Alina, and all my best to you and to Craig.
Thank you, Vera. It was a real pleasure to be here.